Alright, now that we have our one color press set up and securely screwed down to our wooden table, we're going to show you how to set up and print this job. Today we're going to be printing a one color design. It's called Kiss Me I'm Irish. We're going to be printing with white ink on a green shirt. Now, I'm going to basically go over these components that you need. You're going to want your screen with your burn design in it ready to set up. You're going to want to pick out your squeegee. Now your squeegee, you always want to pick a squeegee that is about 1.5 inches to 1 inch bigger than your design on each side. This is about a 10.5 inch design. This squeegee is a 12-inch squeegee. So if you can see, it's clearly at least 1 inch to 1.5 inches bigger on each side. That's perfectly fine. We also have ink cleaner here. Ink cleaner is always a good idea to have. This is Screen Wash 147 in case we spill ink or we need to clean any ink off our screen. Spray adhesive to tack our shirt down and our test pallets down once we're ready to start printing. Paper towels are always a good idea to have on hand. Gloves are always also a good idea to have on hand so you don't get ink all over your hands. We're going to be using white ink, and then we're always going to want to have our ink scoop ready to go. Then we're going to have our screen tape so we can tape off our screen and set up our job. Black test squares. Since we're using a white ink, we're going to use black test squares to set up and test the print. And then you're going to want to use a T-square so when you're setting up the job you can make sure everything's square and straight on the shirt. And finally, today we're going to be curing this shirt with a heat gun. This is based around one of our starter kits, so we're going to show you how to use a heat gun to properly cure designs. We're going to bring in the camera now and set it up over this job so we can show you how to set everything up and start printing. Okay, the first thing that we're going to want to do is create a center line down the middle of the palette. That way when we come and line each t-shirt up, it's going to be approximately centered on the palette. You'll find that most t-shirts have a center crease down the center of the t-shirt, so if we line that crease down the corresponding line, we're going to be good and centered every time. To do that, you're just going to want to take a ruler or a T-square and just simply measure off the palette. This palette, for instance, is 16 inches wide, so we're going to mark it on inch number 8, and we're going to come down there once we've marked it and draw a center line down the whole palette. Make sure we're all nice and square and centered. That's what you're going to want to use a T-square or a square for. Okay, once we have the center line, now we're going to come over here and grab a t-shirt to line up the shirt or line up the design on the shirt. A great way to put shirts over, you're going to want to pull apart the shirt so you have a wide opening with your fingers and then just slide it over the palette like that. Now this shirt's a little bit older, so we don't have a center line down on it. Another way you can use the center of the shirt, I like to slide them all the way on the palette, kind of like that, and then you can grab the corners of the sleeves right there and pull it off evenly so we have a nice center line and we get the shirt nice and even and center on the palette. Once it's even on the palette, now this is a square palette, so we can have our shirt line or our neckline down a little bit further or up here. I usually like to have it about up here. Once we find this spot, once we have our artwork laid out, we're going to want to come and we're actually going to want to make a little mark with a Sharpie right here so that we come and put the shirt on the same spot every single time. We have the shirt on. Now we're going to come and take our transparency film. We're going to come put it down on the shirt. We've cut the edges of the film here so we can fit it on the palette a little bit better. Now this is a center design on the front of a shirt, so most of your center design is going to be on about 3 to 4 inches down. Another way you could do it is you can actually put a shirt on the person and maybe line it up by eye where you want this transparency to be on the shirt, and then you can maybe tape it on the shirt so when you put it on it's going to be already in the right spot and you just have to center it. Right now we're going to know it's going to be about 3 to 4 inches down, so that's basically 4 fingers down from the neckline. So I'm just going to take 4 fingers down here, put it in the approximate right spot, the transparency. Then we're going to want a corresponding mark to the palette so we can come and put the transparency on the palette and line it up square. So just take a little ruler here, measure down the top of the transparency to the top of the palette. That's about roughly a little, maybe 1.25 inches. So once we have that mark, we're going to take the shirt off, come back and put the transparency on, and then we're going to line the transparency up so it's center and square. First start off about 1.25 inches down from the top of the palette, and we'll come over here and we need to line it up both centered and straight across the palette so it's square on our t-shirt. So right now I'm measuring about three and a little less than 3/4 inches across. Let's try measuring on this side to the other side of the image. It looks like we just need to move it over just a little bit. Measure once again, that's we're on 3 3/4 here. About 3 3/4 over there too. So once we're measured, let's tape off the approximate center of it. We'll tape the top of the image, just put one piece of Scotch tape right up here so we can still make horizontal changes, but it's not going to move up and down at all or side to side. Then we're just going to want to come square it off. So we have our T-square or our square here on the edge. We line it up to the bottom of our text or to some straight line on the image. You can also line it to the edge of the transparency sheet. If your image is round, you have no straight line on the actual image itself. Once we notice that it's straight, we're going to hold it down, come grab some Scotch tape, and then just tape it down one more time so that it won't move when we're setting up our screen. Now we're going to grab our screen and we're going to place it into the screen clamp. Now you don't want to tighten it down all the way because we're going to have to make adjustments. Once it's in the screen clamp, we've got to get a good idea of where we want to go. We have room to move the palette and we have room to move the screen inside the screen clamp a little bit. So we have to come out a little bit, meaning we're going to probably take our palette, we're going to move it down just a tad bit. We'll loosen the palette up. We're going to move it down so it's roughly in the right spot. We're going to make sure it's all square and tight. Then we're going to tighten it back down. Once that's done, we're going to come and we're going to put the screen where it needs to be for the image. Now this is just a one-color job, so everything doesn't have to be perfect. Now, on a two-color job, you'd have registration marks, and we're going to do a two-color job later on the DVD, and that has to be actually perfect. You have to line that up perfectly to the registration marks, but you can actually look down through the image right here. You can see your film through your image on your screen, and you want to line your screen up pretty much correctly to your film as much as possible. Once again, one-color image doesn't have to be as exact as like a two-color image, but a two-color or above image you want to be registered directly to your registration marks. Once our screen's lined up, we can actually push down on the screen so we can see where it's corresponding exactly on the image too. So once it's lined up to the right spot, we need to tighten the screen down inside the clamps. So I'm just going to tighten these down very, very tight so they don't move each time. Now once they're tightened down, we're going to check for off contact because we want a good off contact. That's going to allow our print to clear. Basically, off contact means that your screen's not going to be pressed down directly into your palette. It's not going to be sitting on top of your palette. It's going to be setting it off a little bit. The reason it sets off is because when we bring the squeegee over, we need to have room for that screen to clear, so it's got to pop up a little bit. The direct off contact that you're going to want is about 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch. That's about, let's say, 2 pennies high. One thing that you can also do is adjust the off contact on the press in case you're not getting a good off contact, or you can come and put an off contact tab on the edge of the screen here. Now, off contact tab is basically, and we went over it with the Riley Hopkins instructions a little bit earlier, but it's basically like a little piece of cardboard you're going to come and tape to the edge of the screen so it sets and holds the edge of your screen off, so that way when you're pulling the squeegee across, not only is the back of your screen in the right spot, but the top of your screen is the right spot. So we're going to have an off contact tab here. That way we know that we have off contact all the way through the job. We poke down and we can see we have good off contact, and now we can set the job up a little bit more. First of all, we're going to tape our off contact tab down to the edge of the screen. It's just going to be done with a little bit of Scotch tape or a little bit of screen tape. Take some screen tape or Scotch tape. Just tape that tab down so it's not going to move. It's going to hit the same spot every time on the job. Doesn't take a whole lot, just a couple things.